person's, minus faith, I don't think necessarily means doubt. It's like an impoverished state to be in. That doesn't necessarily mean doubt. And actually, this is something, maybe I can read that. These are relevant topics now. And Goswami Maharaj, he shared something on this point. In his exchanges with Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And as I recall, what Srila Sridhar Maharaj expressed to him was that it was the mind, it was the intellect. Too much of that is what creates doubt. Let me see. Yeah, Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, too much analysis leads to doubt, and doubt disturbs faith. And faith is our only access to the higher plane. So, it's like a function of the mental, of the mind and the intellect. I mean that analysis, wanting to see things like on an empirical level. That's what leads to doubt. But sorry, what is the question again? What is doubt?
Yeah, but the concept of doubt in our tradition is actually, I don't hear the word all that often, but I think I don't hear it discussed more often, but it is a part of the process. I mean, it is present.
Right. Well, I mean, to some extent, I hear Srila Sridhar Maharaj talk about this. And he references some, there's in Sanskrit the word is samshaya, right? It means doubt. And how, we need to encourage the culture of faith, in divinity over what our mental analysis may tell us. This will be like a conflict that we will face in our day-to-day practice and our decision making and in our service life, these kinds of things. That there will be those moments when we are, basically doubt is the outcome of our own estimation of things. Doubt is the outcome of analyzing things according to our own intellect and limited understanding. And faith means trusting in divinity, trusting in the higher Vaishnava, trusting in the Guru, trusting in the Lord, like that. And and Srila Gurudev also, he had there was a few Srila Gurudev's personal servitors, they Saraswati and Didi and I think Nakul Prabhu, they both told me, and maybe Devabandhu Prabhu also. But I understood it was like a theme of his, that he would encourage. It's not something I heard Gurudev talk about so much in his public talks, but like in training persons on a one-to-one basis in a personal way, they told me that confidence was something that he really stressed, like observing how they were serving him and their day-to-day, duties. They're feeling some insecurity, some shyness, some hesitation. He would encourage them to be confident, our ego is also there. Like, I mean, this doubt, it can manifest in different ways, actually. It can also be like a doubt in our own ability, or our ego is afraid to fail, But it's kind of like we must become free of that ego, of that pride, of needing to be perfect. It's in that movement of faith and just trusting in the higher, in the Lord, in the Guru, in the Vaishnava, then then in doing that we have to set aside consideration of our own position within this world, how we may be judged by others. We're merging our interest with the higher interest, and that's really the substantial thing. And what the outcome may be on a superficial level, that's not to be considered. That's just superficial. The real transaction is in me putting my faith in Guru and Vaishnava. So, like Gurudev mentioned, in one place I heard Gurudev talk about this in his service life. He said what was the word that he used? It wasn't doubt. It was what was the word that he used? It was something like lamenting, or he just it conveyed the mood. Maybe he didn't use a word to describe it, but he conveyed the mood. He said that my mood was never, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, but what I could do, I did it. And whatever was possible for me to do, I did that. And Guru Maharaj was very happy with that. And Srila Sridhar Maharshi, there's one place, I think in one of the sermons, where he's saying how actually, in order to be progressive, we have to continue to be active. And he quotes this verse in Bhagavad Gita, Shamshayatma Vinashati, something like that. Those who are doubtful, those who are hesitating, they will be destroyed. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj gives the example that you're on a battlefield and, things are moving and there's no time to just sit, and overanalyze, what you should or shouldn't do. There's a certain, time when you need to just do, whether it's right or wrong, actually, because you need to keep moving. It's like when you're in one of those, I don't know if you've ever been in a crazy crowd. I got stuck in have you been in India during Rasa Purnima in Navadvip? Oh my God, the drunken festival. And I got through a very elaborate series of events. I ended up in the middle of that crowd. 9 o'clock at night, drunken people all around you, and you can't just stop, you'll get crushed or something, you have to just move with things, So in a battlefield, so Srila Sridhar said you have to make, the general has to make decisions and keep moving. Even if it's a wrong decision, that's okay. Then you can learn from that. But you can't just stop. You need to keep moving. So in the same way in our in our devotional lives, sometimes due to our I'm talking here, I guess, about self-doubt, but that's also a manifestation of doubt in divinity, because it means a lack of faith. It means doubt in the capacity of the Lord and the Guru to extend power to us, right? So, we can, I myself, I can be like that. You're over-analyzing the situation. You want to do exactly the right thing. You're afraid of doing the wrong thing. And so you get stuck, Should I do it this way? Should I do it that way? What's the right thing to do? And there's this fear, as you were saying, that I'll do the wrong thing, or that the wrong result will come, or I'll get in trouble, or people are going to hate me, or whatever it's going to be, I'll be blamed, But actually we need to have that spirit of optimism and confidence, that our intention is good. We're trying to act in the interest of Guru and Gauranga, and if we fail, then that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We can learn from our mistakes, And if other people criticize us for what we did, then that's okay too. We have to be ready to face that. It's something we all have to face in our lives, But our comfort is that our intention was good, that we were trying to act in the interest of Guru and Gauranga. And maybe they, we also have to be ready for them to use us in such a way that we will be criticized. That we'll be the bad guy. We'll have to do the dirty work, or something like that. So we have to be free from that kind of ego. So really, doubt, fear, these things disappear when we align ourselves with the Lord's interest, with the higher interest, and all consideration of our own loss or gain, fame, infamy, all of that has to be set aside, So that's one aspect that's one way of, discussing this concept of faith. And then there's also the aspect of intellectualism, over-analysis, trying to contain the infinite in one tiny cell, gray cell of your brain. Too much of that. Because the thing is, your brain, ultimately it's achintya, ultimately it's inconceivable. So there will be a point when your gray brain cells cannot comprehend the nature of the infinite. And so then, inevitably, you become doubtful. Then your faith is disturbed. So it's not that we're meant to be stupid. It's not that we're meant to have a blind faith. But there needs to be a healthy measure of, ultimately it's inconceivable. To some extent, we can appreciate the logic of things. We can appreciate the premise of everything. But ultimately, many of these things, they are, we have to accept. And that's also logical, that the nature of that, it's infinite, then therefore it's logical that we won't be able to comprehend every detail. That's also logical. That makes perfect sense. So the culture of faith, the culture of accepting, what is descending from, if we can understand, if we have the fortune of being acquainted with someone who we can understand to be a genuine Vaishnav, to be a superior Vaishnav, then we need to enter into the culture of embracing, what their version of reality is. And if there's sometimes a conflict between what our version of reality is and what their version of reality is, then we need to have that faith to set aside, what our version is. And that's what surrender is. That's the starting point of Sharanagati. Can you follow me and not your mind? And Arjuna at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Shishashtiham Shadi Tvamam Prapanam. I've said all of my stuff that's in my head according to my, conception of the environment. This is how I'm feeling. And now I'm setting all of that aside, Krishna, and I'm coming to you and I'm saying, you tell me what you think. And I'm ready to surrender to that. That's the start of spiritual life. That takes courage. That takes faith. Faith equals courage, actually. That, everything that I've ever known, everything that I've understood, according to what I've collected from the environment with my senses, with my mind, with my intellect, with my eyes, with my ears, I'm ready to set all of that aside because I want to receive what is descending from a higher plane of reality. No doubt what I've collected with my senses, that has some value, that has some reality, that has some truth. But there's different layers of truth. And if I want to remain within my layer, if I want to remain within this particular zone of experience, then I can continue with this transaction of this particular level of truth, But I want to experience, but I'm ready, I desire to experience a higher reality. I want to experience a higher truth. So if I sincerely want that, then I need to leave aside my whole analysis of the environment, all of my collected prejudices about the environment. I need to set that aside and to be open to receiving that higher version, that higher analysis, that higher interpretation, based on higher and eternal principles. Because ultimately, whatever knowledge I'm acquiring, whatever understanding I'm acquiring, that's based on relative and temporary truths. They don't have eternal value. It's all temporary. It's all going to vanish. So what's coming from my guru, what's coming from the Shastra, from the scripture, that's based on that has a more solid foundation because it's based on eternal truths. So I want to begin to calculate things on the basis of that higher truth. And then, so there will come those moments where there's a clash, right? Between what our prejudiced idea of things are, our stereotyped idea of things are, and what's coming down from the higher plane. There will come those moments, friction. And then those are the points where we have to say, oh, I need to let go of this, elimination and new acceptance, So like just this example is popping in my head, Gurudev Gurudev told the devotees don't take chocolate on Ekadashi, but to his devotee, to his disciple who's overly rigid about following the rules, who thinks that following the rules is what spiritual life is about, Gurudev's forcing that disciple to eat chocolate on Ekadashi. So that's like a moment for him of surrender. I need to set aside my whole version of what spiritual life is. I need to set aside the doubts that I have about this other way of doing things, because this is descending from a genuine guru, from a real Vaishnav. So even though I can't quite understand it according to my little tiny idea of what spiritual life is, I have to take that leap of faith and accept that. So like, that's just one random example that popped in my head, but there will be so many moments like that, and it may be unconscious. That's why we need to stay alert, because unconsciously it can be that the environment is poking us, like trying to stir us up. Jai Dwarkesh Prabhu Dandavat. All of the chairs have disappeared. Does anyone? Somebody cleaned too thoroughly. So, actually, the environment is always poking us. It's just a matter of, poking our misconceived. The environment is always poking our complacent misconceptions, let's say. We're very, yeah, that's not going to work, yeah. Okay. Okay. So the environment is always, we are very complacent with all of our misconceptions and prejudices. And so if we're, the environment is always poking us, like trying to wake us up, wake up, Anna, what is this? What is this idea that you have in you? This is false, So if we're awake, then we will perceive that we're being poked all the time, and we just kind of have to begin to consciously cooperate with that process of deconstruction and reconstruction. And that requires, those at times, those moments of setting aside our doubts, which are based on the analysis of our limited, faculties, and to embrace with faith, with trust, that this is a higher plane of truth, based on a higher set of principles, which I can't completely comprehend at present. But I accept it's descending from a higher source of knowledge, a higher authority, so I'm going to accept it, even though it doesn't make sense to me completely at present. Do you think that addresses?
Yeah.
And anything you want to pick up on from what I said?
It was beautiful. I guess what comes to mind is how closely, related to, or at least faith is to doubt, like how where there is doubt, there is actually the choice to place what you say, place trust in something beyond the doubt, even though we don't know what exactly that may be. But it is a choice that can be made in these moments of doubt.
Yeah, I mean, it can all. It depends, It could be more. It's an individual thing. It could be more complicated, because it could also be that as a result of offenses, then that mood of doubt has entered us. That is also possible. So that's more complicated. It's more of a sticky situation. But that would be more. That would be less common. That would be more rare. That and we've seen cases like that, or we've heard about them, persons who could not comprehend, Like this guru is not fitting into my little square box of what, a sadhu should supposedly be. Like, and that's a moment of friction. Like, I have my little tiny concocted version, my very limited idea of what a guru should be, and the guru is not fitting into that. And so, therefore, instead of questioning myself, and instead of questioning my own beliefs and my own understanding, I'm going to question that person. I'm going to question the guru. I'm going to think they're not checking all my little boxes. And so instead of thinking I need to change my boxes, instead of thinking I need to adjust my vision to think that there's something wrong with them, then that is offense, And then, just this example that I'm thinking of, that person could not understand, the guru, and that the guru could not fit into their boxes, and then that created some offense, and then next thing you know, they just lose their faith in Krishna consciousness, and they're doing all kinds of other things right now. That offense disturbed their faith, So that's another more rare possibility. But otherwise, generally, yes, we have to confront this decision, There's that free will that is there. So that's why it's nice to discuss these things, and kind of like we can all go and examine ourselves afterwards, and see, and how in many different ways, in our, as we mentioned in the beginning, in our, like, what type of limitations are we putting upon ourselves, and how much we're able to do, what type of capacity we have. How much are we really offering ourselves as an instrument to Guru and Gauranga? And how much do we really believe that by their grace anything is possible? So that's one manifestation of doubt in our own capacity,
That's kind of how I was thinking about this lack of faith, right? Where I know you explained that it isn't directly correlated, but at the same time it's producing the other. So, like you say, like we're not fully, faithful in the fact that in this process, then that is limited to some extent.
And then, we can also add that the cure for that is to get the association of those who have that type of, stronger faith. Yeah, it's a very nice, it's a nice topic. And on the Srila Sridhar Maharaj also talks about fear. You also mentioned fear, and how that's also a result of being misaligned from the universal interest. It's a result of us identifying ourselves with our egocentric, individualistic existence. Perceiving our self-centered, egocentric existence, identifying with that, Because when we're in that spirit, we're actually always on the defensive, consciously or unconsciously. Because we're creating our own, little universe in which we're the center. And naturally that's always being threatened. Because it's not in line with the universal interest. It's not aligned with everyone else's little universes and their interest. So naturally we're in this state of fear all the time, because we're on the defensive, that someone's going to come and encroach upon our little world where we're the center. But so one place Srila Sridhar Maharaj describes it as a lack of guardian consciousness. It's having lost sight of that, that vision that the Lord is there, and He's in control, and my interest is synonymous with His interest. His interest is synonymous with my interest. So if I'm thinking that, I don't have my separate interest, I don't need to, establish or assert myself, I don't need to be seen in a particular way, and the Lord is in control and He can dispense things as He likes, and He, His love and affection is also there, then whatever comes is okay, There's no question of my little individual existence being threatened. That doesn't exist. It is all His interest, and I'm joining in the flow of His interest. And so whatever supposedly, apparently negative thing is coming to me, it must be a part of His interest. It must be to support me in coming towards His interest. It must be, a positive, a positive thing with the highest vision. So, it's difficult, It's easy to talk about these things, but it's very difficult because for so long, we've been conditioned by that type of thinking. So we're just so accustomed to thinking of, if we're going to calculate some situation, we're thinking about, our ego is intertwined with that, so deeply, How does it affect me and my interest? And how am I going to be perceived as a result of this? And it's very insidious, actually. And that's one of the beautiful things about trying to practice spiritual life, or like coming to join the service current, let's say, connecting with the service. That's the beauty of connecting with the service current, because all of these things start to get shaken up, and again, those moments come where we're forced to confront, how will I deal with this situation? Those difficult, awkward moments will come where we're forced to re-examine ourselves. Where there will be moments when it's unavoidable that we confront that egocentric approach that we have. I have to make some particular decision here, and what if it's unavoidably clear that this is the right decision to make, however, it's going to make me look bad. And it's like you're forced to confront that tendency within ourselves, to, there's that inclination to do what makes us look good. This is just one example, But in so many ways, this will come up. So, that, as I said, that's the beauty of connecting with that living service current, connected to a real Vaishnava, because all of these things they're gonna get shaken up, they're gonna come to the surface, and we're gonna have to face these things. And then if we are progressive, then, we can move on, But if we remain holding on to that, then we're just stuck there, And that same opportunity for growth, it'll keep cycling around us, keep coming up again and again and again and again. So, we have to be conscious in our practicing lives and see how the Lord, how the divinity is trying to reciprocate with us. It's not a dead thing. It's a living thing. And we have to have the courage of faith, to face whatever is going to come, whatever it may be, humiliation, destitution, whatever it may be, We have to have that type of courage of faith to face all those things in the name of progress. That's ultimately as Srila Sridhar says, the beck and call of our lives. We want to make, if we really want to make progress, then we have to be ready to let go of everything else, And in a subtle and a gross way, all the attachments, even, like Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Dandavat, Srila Sridhar Maharaj mentions in one place, we have to be ready to give the prospect of different things, Because it's interesting how many people live their lives not realistically thinking that they can get something, but just that there's the prospect of that. That keeps them going, So to let go of that of even, conception of particular prospects, that's quite heavy, Everything has to be smashed, It's very heavy. Everything has to be broken. Everything has to be deconstructed, Before that, that's die to live. It's not a light matter. It's not for the faint-hearted. You were going to say something.
I was going to ask you about, there's such a beautiful example of, that you gave about, the chocolate on Ekadashi, and that one who is super overly focused on the rules and regulations, that Gurudev is saying you must honor chocolate on Ekadashi to break those tendencies within you that are obstructing your progress. And a silly thought came in my mind, is that is it always in trying to ascertain what is the positive move here, how can I deconstruct? How can I go deeper? Where do I draw the most positive in this situation? Is it always the most difficult? Because if we really are sincere with ourselves and analyze ourselves, what is the most difficult choice to make in this situation? Because this comes to mind because recently, just a couple of days ago, I just heard something like, the obstacle is the path. So whenever something comes to us and presents us as an obstacle, and then actually to go through that, like we hear, to embrace that as the Lord's blessing, and what you said as well, to help us tweak ourselves, to help us align ourselves with this divine flow that is coming to us.
I mean, we're not martyrs.
No?
We also don't want that, We want to make real progress, so it will be different, the die to live, it means ego giving, ultimately. So that may manifest as something simple or difficult in different cases. The main point is we need to be awake to what is the real nature of what's before us, because we can also like Gurudev talks about emotion and devotion, like we mentioned the other day, that example, somebody asked Gurudev for sannyas, and Gurudev said, we want devotion, not emotion. So we can think in that person's minds, they're like, yeah, I'm going to embrace like the tough path, I'm going to do the austerity, like I'm going to make it difficult, and Gurudev's response is, this is emotion. Like, you're not really connected with the real nature of things here. You're not really connected to the path. So, yeah, we have to be awake, we have to be a little smart, we have to be sincere, and it has to be in the interest of the Lord. Because we can also have this mood like we need to prove something to ourselves, in some silly way, that I can do this, or I can do that, or, I can face up to this person, or I can fast all day, or whatever it may be. It can manifest in different ways, But that can be based upon our own ego, actually, based upon our own, our own issues. So, it also needs to be in connection with the Lord's interest. There was one occasion somebody was asking Srila Sridhar Maharaj about preaching in a country, maybe it was like Russia or something like that, where there was some risk of great danger in preaching, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he could have said like, die to live, be brave, and he said, preach somewhere else, Like, why do you, that's, there's this kind of like spirit of martyrdom that we can have, which is an expression of emotion versus devotion. We want to be practical, and, and that's what was so helpful about Srila Gurudev's example, because he never made like, because it's easy to see like the vairagya, to see the renunciation of some of the great gurus in our line, and to get distracted by that. Like if you look at Srila Sridhar Maharaj, like what did Gurudev say? He ate like 200 grams a day or something. Like he was so simple in his habits, and so that can actually be a little confusing, and think, oh, that's what it means, But then you look at Srila Gurudev, and Srila Gurudev, he was, mixing with everything in the world, and accepting everything that people gave him. And it would be easy for somebody to tell Gurudev, for someone to think Gurudev was an ordinary person, because he did, as he said himself, like, I'm not putting on a show, He wasn't, if he was doing the opposite, he was trying to break our misconceptions, watching television, like, can you handle this, So, he made it very clear that it was an internal culture. It's not, like, I appreciated one comment of someone about the way somebody else was leading a society, like it was very performance-based. Like their approach was very performance-based. Like you wear the right dress, and you follow the right practices, and you chant the right songs, and then that's it, But with Srila Gurudev, it was something much, much deeper than that. It was about the inner culture of consciousness, the inner culture of heart. So, he was really looking at the substantial thing always, and relating with that. So we need to, according to our best ability, we need to try to practice like that, Like, we don't want to like artificially impose something, oh, I need some challenge, I need some obstacle, like what's coming in front of it. Doesn't mean that we won't try to push ourselves a little more. Of course, all those things are there, but we don't want to be artificial, and we need to be, have some practical understanding of what's really in front of us here and what is actually the best way to deal with it. Not based upon my own ego or my own need to prove myself or whatever it may be. Like real service for Gurudev, might mean, he might tell somebody to sit here. Like, can you handle that? Like, just not doing something, like David Shishru told that story. Gurudev told him, just stay here, and then Gurudev went to take rest, and then Devi Shishru was feeling like, I need to do something, and so he went out, and then he came back, and Gurudev was up, like, what happened, There were a few cases I've heard like that, Like, can you handle that? Like, just not doing anything. Like, can your ego handle that, And maybe other people will, Saraswati, you can probably tell some stories, and other people might say you're lazy, So, yeah, well, there has to be that kind of flexibility there, What is actually the desired thing there? Gurudev was always drawing out people's hearts, in the deepest way. Like, I'm just remembering, I don't know if this is related or not, we'll see. Just thinking how Gurudev would be so unexpected, I unfortunately I didn't get it recorded, but Deva Bandhu Nandapriya told me this occasion. And this was the thing with Gurudev, like he could give you the tiniest thing to do, and it became this life mission. It took on these huge proportions, like the light switch thing. If you can't turn on the light, leave Krishna consciousness, like that, it became a matter of life and death. If you could do this tiny thing, And Navasundar was telling me also, I think some water had spilt on the floor, and that he'd done that nicely, that was major thing, Gurudev's watching, or Gurudev's observing how he opened up a packet, and it was because Gurudev was so attentive actually, he's reading you and how you're opening a package, because Navasundar said it wasn't he just went and tore it open, but he he did it properly, piece by piece, opening this package. And Gurudev was really impressed and happy with the way that he did that. He's reading something into your personality and these tiny little details, It was Gurudev was showing spiritual life is something subtle, something very subtle. There was one nice incident Nrsimha Prabhu told me about. Gurudev was in Navadvip, and he was watching. I mean, this was, his version of it, but, to me it makes a lot of sense. That Gurudev was watching television, and there was a group of devotees there, and we were just happy sitting with Gurudev, right? So, there wasn't any talk going on. Gurudev's just watching television, everyone's happily sitting there. And then at a certain point, Gurudev's just comfortable. It was an intimate family moment. Gurudev's not feeling a need to, put on a show for everybody and tell everyone some story, And then at a certain point, he turned off the television, and he said, he looked at everyone. He said, all the rishis are saying that religion, that dharma. I think he used the word dharma. Dharma is, and he used the Sanskrit shukshma, which means subtle. And then he was looking for the word, and he looked at Goswami Maharaj, and Goswami Maharaj said subtle. So Gurudev said, that was his expression. All the rishis are saying that dharma religion is subtle. And then he went back and turned on the television.
Wow.
That was it. So, we can draw our own, we can all draw our own conclusions. But if you, in a stereotyped way, say, he's sitting here watching television, this is not a spiritual practice. But what's going on a subtle level? And then you can find somebody else who's sitting there chanting japa, reading shastra. What's going on in their consciousness? What is their consciousness? And maybe they're on a mental level engaging with that. But in a substantial level, and on a devotional level, are they engaging with that? Really, So Gurudev was always teaching that it's a subtle thing. It's a subtle thing. So we're trying to adjust ourselves in a subtle way. But the story I was going to tell is so sweet. I don't know if I can remember the exact details, but Gurudev had asked for some buttered toast. And so Deva Bandhu, there was only one piece of bread left, and then they burnt it. I don't know if you were there that day. Well, so many things like that happen, right? But Deva Bandhu burnt the toast, and so Deva Bandhu and Nandapriya were like totally freaking out, like Gurudev asked for buttered toast. There's only one piece of bread. We burnt the toast. This is terrible, And so then I think he scraped it, as best as he could, and he brings it out to Gurudev. Oh, Gurudev, I'm so sorry, I burnt the toast, and Gurudev just looks at him, And then at that moment, somebody entered with a loaf of bread, just like out of the blue, So then Deva Bandhu went. And quickly he made a fresh piece of toast, and then he brought that to Gurudev. So Gurudev's looking at these two pieces of toast, and then he went and he took the burnt one. He ate the burnt one. But it's just interesting, like in these very subtle ways, Gurudev was always like stirring, like trying to churn, the hearts of the devotees, with that earnest service desire. But anyway, my overall point was that it's a very subtle thing that the real expression of devotion, it is something, real development of progress. It's happening on a subtle plane. So we have to be very attentive. And, we can be doing a lot of service and a lot of devotional activity, but actually all we're doing is increasing our ego. That danger is there. Serious danger is there. And somebody else who's not very involved, apparently on a conscious level, they can be much more deeply connected. So, yeah, it's never what meets the eye.